When people find out that I used to be Presbyterian, they often want to know why I made the switch. It's not all that complicated, really. It was a girl, a pretty girl, a pretty Baptist girl who sent me an application for admission to her college. On a whim, I filled it out. On a whim, they accepted me, and almost before I knew what was happening, I had transferred from St. Andrew's Presbyterian in North Carolina to Georgetown College in Kentucky, a Baptist school. 2 weeks after I got there, my new girlfriend and I had a big fight. We broke up. I went back to my dormitory and sat there on the edge of my bed thinking, Jim Somerville, this is the dumbest thing you have ever done. Transferred to another school for a girl. But then, a few days later, she came over with a plate of chocolate chip cookies. And that's all it takes for a guy. We made up, and a few weeks after that, we broke up, and then we made up again, and that's how it was for the first year and a half. It was sometime during that first year, while things were going well for us, that I had the idea of starting my own fraternity. I thought I would call it Omicron Zeta, and the Greek letters would be O-Z, just like that. To anybody who didn't know Greek, it would look like the word Oz, as in the Wizard of. I liked that. I thought others might like that as well, and so I went back to my dorm and called an organizational meeting, and 4 other guys showed up. I said, what do you think about starting a fraternity? We could call it Omicron Zeta, or Oz for short. They liked that idea. They thought they would like to belong to that fraternity, especially since there were no other fraternities knocking on the doors of these particular guys. Since it was my idea, I got to be the wizard. But other fraternity nicknames were dispensed in short order: the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and Toto, too. We talked about getting some jerseys made up with a big OZ on the front and our fraternity nicknames on the back. Somebody thought it would be a good idea to use as our pledge pin a 3.5-pound bowling pin that our pledges would have to carry around with them, set on the edge of their desks during classes, trying not to knock them over. We talked until midnight, coming up with big ideas for our new fraternity, and then 2 days later, I found the ambulance. There was this flea market held every Saturday on the edge of town, and on this particular Saturday, I walked out there and saw this old ambulance parked at the edge of the fairgrounds with a sign in front of it reading $500 firm. It didn't look like an ambulance, really. It looked like a hearse. It was long and dark with tail fins and enough room inside for a full-sized casket. I asked the owner about that, and he said it wasn't a hearse, it was an ambulance. And he proved it by showing me the lockers inside where medical supplies had been stored. You wouldn't need medical supplies in a hearse, he said, making a good point. He also showed me the place on top where the flashing red light used to be, and swore that this ambulance used to be white before it had been painted from stem to stern in a kind of dull gray primer. Best of all, he said, it's a Cadillac. And it was. I went around front and admired the Cadillac emblem on the front grille. He opened the hood and showed me the powerful motor underneath. I had this vision of this old ambulance with a fresh coat of glossy white paint and the Omicron Zeta insignia stenciled on both sides in gold letters. I pictured me and my fraternity brothers piling inside, driving it down Highway 25 to Lexington, Kentucky, to Joe Bologna's for pizza. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Does it run? I asked. Oh, yes, he said. It runs good. Could I give it a try? Well, he said, looking around, what if you come back this afternoon with the money? And then we could take it out for a spin. Well, I said, I don't have the money right now, but I think I could get it. Why don't you do that? He said, you go, get the money, bring it back, and when you do, we'll take it out for a spin. So I hurried back toward campus to talk to my fraternity brothers to see if among the 5 of us we could come up with $100 apiece. And somewhere along the way, I made the mistake of telling my girlfriend, "You're buying a what?" she asked. "An ambulance," I said. "This cool old ambulance that looks like a hearse. It's only $500, and best of all, it's a Cadillac." "You're buying a what?" she asked. "A Cadillac," I said. "I'm buying a beautiful old Cadillac ambulance for my fraternity. We're going to call it the Ozmobile." There was a long silence before she spoke again. And then she said, "You have to understand something, Jim. When I think of you as my future husband. And when you do things like this, it worries me. I wonder what kind of husband you're going to be. Somebody who buys old, broken-down, hearse-looking ambulances at the drop of a hat? I mean, you have to admit, that's not very responsible." And then I looked at her for a long moment, stunned. What kind of girl had I fallen in love with? A woman who couldn't rejoice in the good fortune of a man who had found an old, broken-down, hearse-looking ambulance at a really good price, one that could be used to transport his rowdy fraternity brothers from one cheap pizza place to another? Just didn't make sense. I said to her, "Look, you may think of me as your future husband, and I may be your future husband, although at the moment it doesn't seem likely. But today, I am a junior in college. We're supposed to be irresponsible.